So I often get asked what's my favorite record, who's my favorite guitar player, what album would you take to a desert island? Okay, first of all, there'd be no electricity, so that's a moot point. Um, Stones records. That was a tough one because anything from that era, that the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s are my favorites, and I was thinking a lot about this last night. Get Your Yayas Out was to me a great one of my favorites, if not my favorite, because it was the Stones live at their peak, sloppy, strutting the whole bit. And I would also sit as a teenager and stare at the live photos on the back of the album. Charlie's Good Tonight. I mean, that famous line, I just busted a button on my trousers. That record got me excited to play live when I was a teenager. So let's call it that one. I unfortunately do not have a vinyl copy of that anymore. So what I did was I picked another one that's right up there. The famous Beggar's Banquet, right? With the terrific inside cover that I also stared at, which is filled with debauchery, which I also followed. No longer, 37 years in recovery. Wanted to mention that. But this was the rabbit hole of debauchery down there. As far as songs, Sympathy for the Devil, uh, No Expectations, Street Fighting Man, one of the greatest nasty riffs, Stray Cat Blues, you know, uh, Salt of the Earth, Factory Girl, I mean, it's all right here. Jigsaw Puzzle. I remember playing all these songs in bands when I was a kid, garage bands. So Jimmy Miller produced. Let's see, Glenn Johns, who I met at the Rock Hole once. Um, Eddie and Gene. Glenn Johns and Eddie and Gene were the engineers. Didn't even put their last name. And of course, Nicky Hopkins on the piano. So this is a classic Rolling Stones record. If you don't have it, you need it. You can see that I found it at a thrift store for 11.99, and even I didn't even take it out off there. Why didn't I take it off? Because I know when you peel these things off, it takes part of the cover off with it. So I'm going to go with this. I'm going to say Get Your Yayas Out was probably famous because, there's Exile on Main Street, Sticky Fingers. They're all top notch. And there's great songs on all of them, you know. But for this purpose, I'm going to stick with Beggar's Banquet.